Welcome, all my crime lovers, to Killers History, where we talk about all kinds of killers around the world, past, present, and future. I'm your host, Zeke, and I'm joined here with my beautiful wife and co-host, Sam. Say hello, Sam.
Hello, everyone. Today we'll be talking about the vampire of Sacramento, better known as Richard Chase, a schizophrenic man who drank the blood of his victims.
Boom, boom, boom.
Fucking gross.
All right, so jumping right into this, in the late 1970s, serial killer Richard Chase murdered at least 6 people in Sacramento, California, and drank the blood of his victims, even along other serial killers. Richard Chase, the vampire of Sacramento, was profoundly disturbed. Even from a very young age, he lived his life under a series of powerful delusions that had fatal consequences. Richard Chase ultimately became infamous when he killed and mutilated the bodies of 6 victims in Sacramento, California. In the late 1970s, given his nickname, it doesn't come as much of a surprise that Richard Chase's trademark was drinking the blood of his victims after he killed them. That's nasty.
That is vile. Can you get a disease from that?
Probably. Yeah, I mean, if somebody was carrying a disease, probably, but I mean, this guy probably didn't care. I mean, he seemed pretty nasty, so. Believe it or not, drinking his victim's blood wasn't even the vampire killer's most disturbing trait. Richard Chase showed signs of mental illness at a young age, but his father, a strict and sometimes physical abusive parent, did little to get him help. So we're kind of getting into the normal serial killer stuff.
Abused, as always.
He was abused as a child, wasn't cared about by his family, and blah, blah, blah. Which, I mean, that might have helped him if he would have got help at a young age. That might have helped him where he wouldn't have committed some of these heinous crimes. But, of course, he didn't. Chase was disturbed and unhappy as a child, and his symptoms grew worse in abstinence. He set several small fires, frequently wetted the bed, and displayed signs of cruelty towards animals.
What in the bed have to do? I don't know what's the bed.
No, I mean, it's probably like at an older age, like than most kids would.
Oh.
You know, most kids are wetting the bed 5, 6 years old. I mean, like 3, 4, maybe 5 years old. They're still wetting the bed sometimes, but you know, he might have been like 7, 8, 9 years old, still wetting the bed. So that's kind of when it becomes a concern. So he started off his mischief at a young age, doing small fires and displaying signs of cruelty towards animals. So these habits, called the McDonald trait, or the trait of a sociopath. So this theory was performed by a man named J.M. McDonald in 1963 as a predator of sociopath in a patient. So it's pretty much just named after this guy that did studies about it. So
on his patients, I guess.
Yeah, I guess like patients that were showing signs of mental this type of mental illness, which pretty much he has schizophrenia. So it's kind of hoping maybe to come up with things to help him, maybe.
I don't know.
Chase's problem grew worse when his father allegedly kicked him out of the house without supervision. See, but it doesn't say what age. Like, was he young?
Yeah.
Chase turned to alcohol and drugs, which quickly turned into a substance abuse problem. Kind of average killer stuff here. He started doing drugs to help with his schizophrenia, with his mental illnesses, and that's kind of the drugs that he started to abuse the most, was drugs that he was taking for his mental illnesses. But he was taking them like he shouldn't.
Psyche drugs.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, psychiatric drugs. Pretty much that's what he was taking. Drugs to help with his mental illness.
Yeah.
So obviously that's showing that at this point he knew he had a mental illness.
But he was using the psychic drugs.
Yeah, I mean he was abusing the drugs that he was taking for those issues. So it probably wasn't helping him at all.
Nope.
Like the vampire whose monarch he would soon adapt, he became convinced on several occasions that his heart had stopped at several times. He thought he was a walking corpse.
How?
So he just thought he was a dead guy. He thought he was a zombie.
Yeah.
Walking around.
But you can't feel your heart beating at all?
It is probably just a thing from his schizophrenia.
Probably.
Was making him just not know that he was.
Oh, yeah.
But being occasionally dead was no reason to neglect his health. Fearing that he lacked vitamin C, he reportedly pressed whole organs to his skin.
Organs?
Of his forehead.
Oranges.
Oh, fuck. Why did I say organs? My God.
Are you here today?
I'm fucking up already. He repeatedly pressed whole oranges to the skin of his forehead, believed that his brain would absorb the nutrients directly. Another thing is, whenever I read this script beforehand, I'm 90% sure I said organs then too. Like when I was reading it, we read it out loud together.
I think when you were reading it to me, when you said organs, I'm like, I'm pretty sure he probably meant oranges.
I wish you would have corrected me because now I said it again. Like I'm 90%.
In my head, I'm like, why would organs help with nutrients? Why would that help?
Well, we already know that he was like eating people pretty much. So I guess I just like thought of it and just implemented it in myself. I don't know. I mean, I can.
Do you have schizophrenia?
I can definitely tell it says oranges. I don't know why it said organs twice, maybe 3 times now.
Hey, you have schizophrenia?
No, man, schizophrenia is crazy. So we did a class whenever I was in academy. It was about people with schizophrenia. Kind of, it was like to help
officers realize if they have schizophrenia?
No, it was kind of a mental health class. It was called CIT. So like a mental health, and there was a portion for mental health. And you would wear these earbuds, and you would like be hearing voices in your head.
Oh yeah, you told me about that.
Yeah, and you would be trying to do tasks while having those voices in your head telling you stuff, like telling you you're crazy, telling you to kill yourself, telling you like different sort of stuff.
They did that in an academy?
Yeah, and so
how did that make you feel during it?
I didn't really feel weird or anything.
Did the task?
It didn't really do much to me, but it probably does it to some people because like it's a course they do. So obviously some people have some different effects from it. And it definitely made it harder when you're trying to do certain tasks. If you're trying to do like brain tasks, like you're trying to like maybe
read or something,
like read or add and subtract and stuff like that. That would mess me up a little bit because like I couldn't even imagine I couldn't even read a book with music playing.
what?
Like if I'm reading a book, I want it to be like silent. I want no noise. I want to be sitting there in the silence reading a book.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Any kind of noise, it will distract me, or it'll make it where I won't fully comprehend what I'm reading. Then I'll just like miss details and I'll like be lost in the book.
That's probably because we're dyslexic.
Yeah, that's probably why. It's also probably why I'm terrible at reading. You guys will put up with it. If you watch this, you're going to be encountering our mumbling selves a lot, probably.
It's not our fault. It's just
but
learning disabilities. But
they're great stories. We're going over great stories. They might not sound the same, the best, but they're great stories. So one of his strangest and most powerful delusions involved his skull. He felt that his cranial bones, pretty much, if you don't know what cranial means, because you never know, somebody might not know, it's pretty much just his skull. Just his skull, he thought that it was splitting apart and beginning to shift beneath the skin.
Like a puzzle. Ew.
Yeah, so like he felt like his skull was just like moving around, like pieces of it. So not really that. It wasn't really. If you put it into more of a perspective, it's not like his skull was just like moving in circles or whatever. It was like pieces were just like rearranging themselves inside of his head.
That is so
like puzzle pieces.
That's disgusting. Like I don't even want to think about that. That makes me want to cringe.
So this man, he shaved his head so he could monitor if his skull was actually shifting. So he went to as far as to shave his head and check his head on a daily basis to see if it was actually moving.
And it's schizophrenia. His delusions probably made it.
That's how schizophrenia is. Like with the earbud thing, it's not that they hear these voices in their head. It's different because you're listening to it in earbuds if you're trying to display what schizophrenia is like. But these people are actually feeling it, hearing it, and these emotions that they're feeling, like they feel real.
Yeah.
Like they cannot tell that they're not real. It's kind of hard. It's kind of a hard concept to put into your head when you've never had an issue like that. But you kind of understand, like they cannot help it. They're not even. He's practically not there. Honestly, some things you can't feel that bad. You kind of feel bad for him a little bit because this was like
he couldn't help
an underlying medical condition that he couldn't help.
And back in the day, no one really.
I mean, yeah, back in the day, it was like mental illness was way different. Back then, dude, they would. I don't know.
Crazy.
I don't know this early in this late because this was like in the 1970s. But I know like back in like the early 1900s, like they would do like lobotomies on these people, which is pretty much like putting a big ass needle in someone's brain and like fucking with their brain. Like lobotomies were like super bad. If you've ever seen American Horror Story. Yeah, I saw it. You kind of see there's a scene about
and
lobotomies.
When they do electric therapy on
electric therapy, cold shock therapy, different shit like that. They would also do it to like homosexuals because they thought that being homosexual was a mental illness.
That's
They
freaking
thought that like it wasn't a normal thing. They were like, you got something wrong in your head for you to be doing this stuff. So like they would do crazy stuff on him. And I guarantee that whenever he gets institutionalized for his mental illness, I guarantee they were doing shit like this to him.
Oh yeah, but it
Because
doesn't really say what they did to him.
as you're going to see in the next sentence that I'm about to read, unsurprisingly, when he was the age of 25,
Okay, so now it has his age.
he
Finally.
was finally actually diagnosed with schizophrenia, and he was institutionalized in 1975 to prevent him from becoming a danger to himself or society. I mean, this was like, who knows? He said this was happening when he was a young child, wetting the bed and doing all this stuff whenever he was a young child. So, like, he went probably 20 years undiagnosed,
Yeah.
never even knowing he had these issues. So, like, the skull stuff and
And you know what?
stuff
You're
like
not
that.
born with schizophrenia. It just pops out at random.
Maybe. I mean, I don't honestly. I feel like I think something has to trigger it. I think I'm not. I mean, I'm not a
Like,
doctor. I'm not a psychologist or whatever it's called. I'm not. I'm not one of those. So I can't really say for sure. But if I had to guess, I know you're not born with it. So if I had to like put a guess on it, you could probably Google and actually figure out why. But if I had to guess, it's probably like something triggers it, like a traumatic experience in your life. Because I know a lot of people that are in the military that go into like active wars, they'll get like PTSD and schizophrenia from that war. That will happen. So I'm thinking it's from a traumatic experience. So it might have been from his father abusing him so bad,
possibly.
because it kind of just says that his father abused him, but it doesn't really say how in depth his father abused him.
Yeah, that's why some stories that do this, like, don't go in depth on what.
Well, the thing is, you can't, because the killer probably never told anybody. He probably said that his father abused him, but he probably never said how or what. He probably didn't want to talk about it. And I mean, he was schizophrenic, and he had definitely some super bad mental illness. So he probably blanked it out, or just didn't remember it, or he was just so crazy
Yeah, comprehend.
he couldn't have like full on conversations with people. So then he started his fixation on with blood, and that's what made him, and he earned the nickname Dracula among the psychiatric hospital's assistants who witnessed him kill and attempt to drink blood of several birds in the effort to starve off the effects of the poison that he thought he was slowly ingesting. So like you'll notice in the story, this man thought everybody was poisoning him. Everybody he encountered, everybody that helped take care of him, he just swore up and down they were poisoning him. So then he slowly turned his own blood into a powder substance.
He imagined slowly turning his blood
Yeah,
into it.
imagined. So he thought that he I guess
He was turning
he
his
would take his own blood out, and
imagine.
thought he was turning it into a powdery substance.
That's fucking crazy.
I don't know if it means like he thought he was turning his own blood into a powdery substance, or like whenever his blood would come out, he thought it was turning into a powdery substance. One or the other. It makes more sense that whenever it was coming out, he thought it was turning into a powdery substance by itself.
I don't know.
That makes more sense in my opinion. So he attempted to inject himself with rabbit's blood, which made him violently ill and resulted in him being institutionalized yet again. Despite several small incidents, the staff believed that they had rehabilitated Chase, and he was released to live with his mother. And that was definitely a fatal decision, as Chase's condition wasn't improving at all. He even grew worse. So, through Richard Chase's, when he was released to his mother's care, there was no legally binding contract or anything saying he had to stay with his mother. They never, like, legally or
They should
through
have.
the court said that he had to stay with his mother. So he was able to go wherever he wanted, whenever he wanted. So shortly after he was released from the psychiatric hospital, he moved in with his mother, and he thought his mother was yet again poisoning him. See,
Okay.
everybody that he lived with or took care of him, he just swore up and down they were poisoning him. So then he moved into an apartment which he shared with a group of young men and that he called his friends, which definitely they were not his friends. But it seemed they didn't know Chase well. When when he had unusual behavior and started using drugs, and he was always high. He would walk around naked throughout the apartment. The group of roommates asked him to leave, which Chase said, hell no, I am not leaving. I don't know if he actually said that, but he refused to leave the apartment, which instead of his roommates trying to get him out of the apartment or, like, calling the police or forcibly removing him, they just said, screw it.
And they abandoned it.
Yeah, we're just going to leave. We're going to let's go find a new place to live together.
I mean, I would too.
Yeah, which honestly is probably the smartest decision because how crazy Chase was. I mean, shoot.
They could have got hurt in the process.
I mean, dude, if you got a guy like hardcore using drugs in your apartment, walking around naked all the time, I don't blame them. I'd be like, yeah, deuces, guys. I'm not even fucking with this guy. I'm out of here.
I don't know what he said.
Yeah. So Chase once again was living on his own, a circumstance that almost always exhibited the symptoms of his condition. I mean, exacerbated, whatever. I can't read that word. Pretty much every time he lived alone, his symptoms seemed to progressively get worse. So his fixation with blood resurfaced, and he began to capture and kill small animals.
Once again.
Yep. He would eat them raw and blend their organs with soda and drink the mixture.
Oh, ugh. Oh my god, that makes me want to throw up. That's so vile.
That's disgusting. I mean, eating the raw meat.
I don't know if I can look at soda the same now.
The raw meat thing isn't as bad for me because I've seen a lot of videos of like people saying it's like super good for you. I've seen a lot of people eat raw meat, like raw chicken, all types of meat. I've seen it. So like that's not what disgusts me at all. But it's mixing the blood of the organs and the organs itself with soda pop and then drinking it. Oh my god.
I'm sorry, I forget sometimes that you call soda pop, and it's so cute when I hear it. When I hear people say pop, because it reminds me of like the olden days.
I'm weird. I sometimes I'll say soda, sometimes I'll say pop. I kind of go back and forth. Normally, it depends on what part of the United States you're from.
Yeah, but you say soda pop.
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm saying. Like I say, I don't know why, but like I'll just randomly change it. One time I'll say soda, one time I'll say soda pop, one time I'll just say.
But you blended it together. Yeah. Soda pop.
Yeah,
made it sound cuter.
Made it sound more official. More official. Where I could say what they do in England, fizzy drink.
Oh yeah, that's
fizzy drink
too.
Could you imagine just me walking around always calling soda a fizzy drink? People would probably be like, "What the fuck are you talking about, dude?" Because I feel like
that's probably what people in England think of us.
I feel like fizzy drink doesn't make sense because there's so many different types of carbonated drinks.
A fizzy drink.
You got fizzy water. If somebody looked at you and said, "Give me a fizzy drink," you're gonna be like, "Do they want a soda? Do they want sparkling water? Do they want Do they want a sparkling cider?
I would be a good hostess and be like, "Do you want fizzy water or fizzy soda?"
No, I mean it don't make sense, man. It makes it way more complicated than what it needs to be. That's my point, because if we're sitting here debating it for like 5 minutes, that kind of shows it's way too confusing. So in August of 1977, Nevada police found him late at night in Lake Tahoe, covered in blood and carrying a bucket with a liver in the back of his pickup truck.
Oh God! Did he already kill someone?
Oh, we're about to find out. So since they determined the blood and organs belonged to a cow, not a human, they let Chase go. This is what trips me out, because I'm pretty sure it's illegal just to go to somebody's farm and like kill a random cow.
Well, they probably didn't know that he like killed someone's animal. They probably wasn't reported yet.
Did they not question like, where did you get this cow? Is it like your own cow, or like did you go kill a random cow?
No, they probably just thought, this crazy motherfucker's covered in blood. I want to get him as far away from me as possible.
Dude, they're cops. That's their whole job.
You wouldn't be creeped out.
No, but like, I mean, I would, but like, I would, yeah, because it's my job.
I wouldn't. I'd be like, go on your way, buddy.
Pretty sure that's like kind of like destruction of property or something like that if you go kill someone's cow.
I don't care.
Mostly like if he's in like the middle of the lake or like around the lake area and he's just carrying a bucket of cow organs, I'd be like, where the fuck did you get these cow organs from? For real. Okay, so since we're done with that long debate about the cow situation and the cops definitely not.
Sorry, I would be the one not to question. I would be sending him on his fucking way. Get away from me.
Yet again, in the crimes, the cops not doing their job yet again. So, of course, he slipped through the cracks of the system again that could have helped and protected others.
Yep. Seems like it happens a lot through killers.
You do notice that, like, they slip through, like, these most obvious cracks that they could be caught, and they're not caught.
Like, getting questioned multiple times about murders, and then them getting away with it. How the fuck are you having to question this person so many times?
Yeah.
They did it.
As it was, alone with no one watching him, he fell more deeply under his delusions until he finally prompted him to do the unthinkable. Whoa, what are we getting into, guys? What are we getting into? It's kind of so on December 29th, 1977, Richard was frustrated and lonely. His mother hadn't allowed him to come home for Christmas that he would later recall, and he was mad. So this is saying that he said this in one of his statements whenever he finally got caught, is that, my mom wouldn't let me home for Christmas and I was mad about it.
So what, go on killing spree?
So this is where he commits his first official murder.
Okay, go on.
This ain't an animal. This ain't an animal, guys. It's an actual person this time.
Okay, we get it. Can you go?
Ambrose Griffin, a 51-year-old man, helping his wife bring in the groceries, became his first victim. While driving by their street, Chase pulled out a .22 caliber pistol and shot him in the chest.
Did he leave him there?
Just point blank. It was the beginning of his obsession. Yeah. He was driving by. He stops his car, shoots this man with a pistol, and drives off.
Oh my God!
Just leaves. I don't know how he doesn't get caught. I don't know if the wife wasn't outside at this moment, so she didn't see who it was. Maybe she was already inside putting the groceries away or something. But obviously, no one's seen him do this. He just drove by, shot him, no witnesses. No one knows at this point who did it. So on January 23rd, Chase would enter Tricia Willen's house.
This is probably a month later.
Yep. Who was pregnant at the time, and her front door was left unlocked.
Stupid mistake.
So during his interrogation, he said that he felt that the door was unlocked, so it was kind of an invitation for him to come inside, and that's how he kind of justified being inside of this woman's house and committing this murder. He said, this lady allowed me to do it. She left her door unlocked, so she wanted this to happen. That is what he said in his interrogation.
And you wonder why I want to ring doorbell.
Yeah. From that time on, all of his victims were people who had left their doors unlocked. So, if he went up to a house and that door was locked, he just walked away. But as soon as he found a door that was unlocked, he'd go in there and murder him. So Richard Chase shot Tricia Willens 3 times using the same gun that he shot Griffith with. Chase proceeded to stab her with a butcher knife before cutting out her organs and drinking her blood.
Oh, God.
He reportedly used a yogurt container as a cup.
What the fuck? Where'd he get it?
The thing that it doesn't say in these statements is that, he cut out her organs. So obviously he cut out the baby because she was pregnant.
Oh my God. Yeah, I remember when you were reading this the first time to me, I was sitting there, I was like, what about the baby? I was just thinking in my head, what happened to the fetus?
If you kind of connect dots here, you don't know how pregnant she was. She could have been like, the baby could have been like the size of an acorn. That small, but still, if he's cutting out her organs, no matter how big this baby is, it's a living being in my opinion. So he cut out the baby, and who knows, he might have ate it.
Oh my God.
Says he was drinking our blood and crap. Who knows? He might have ate the baby. Chase's final murders were the most gruesome of all. So these are kind of back-to-back murders. He's doing these in quick succession, back to back to back to back to back to back.
Wait, go back up.
Because when he went in to start murdering these people, he went fast. This is like days later.
Yeah, December 29th.
December
killed
29th.
the guy.
A month later, a little bit less than a month later, he kills.
Yeah, because that's
Tricia
December
Willen.
29th.
Yeah.
He killed the 51-year-old guy. And then
less than 30 days later,
January 23rd, he killed the pregnant woman.
Kills Tricia.
Yeah.
And then now we get into
January 27th.
Yep. That's what I'm saying. Like, he's doing it quick. He is not holding back at all.
Oh my God.
So in this one,
just 4 days after the Wills.
This one's a multiple murder at once.
Time.
Yeah, multiple murders in one quick succession. So on January 27th, 1978, just 4 days after Willen's murder, Chase found Everly Myroth, door unlocked. Inside were her 6-year-old son, Jason Myroth, her 22-month-old nephew, David Fury, whatever. I'm terrible at pronouncing names. Names are not my strong suit. I'll say that for sure. And a neighborhood friend, Dan Meredith. Meredith was murdered in the hallway, dead by a gunshot wound to the head. So this man, he opened this front door, bop. As soon as he walks in, he walks down the hallway, shoots Meredith in the head. Chase subsequently stole his car keys, So Meredith was all obviously an older friend, probably a friend of the mother. Because if he had car keys, he's not a friend of the 6-year-old. So he kills a grown man in the hallway. Everly and Jason were found in Everly's bedroom. The little boy had been shot twice in the head. Everly was partially cannibalized. Her stomach was cut open, and she had multiple organs missing. So the mother and the son were in the bedroom, and he went in there and shot the little boy in the head. He shot the mother and cannibalized on her body. So he cut open. Her stomach was cut open, and she had multiple organs missing.
So what do you do with the organs?
He ate them.
Probably.
Because they didn't find these organs anywhere. So obviously he probably freaking ate them. I mean, he was already drinking people's blood.
Yeah.
He probably drunk her blood and ate some of her organs.
Okay.
There was also a final attempt to remove one of her eyes, and her corpse had been sodomized.
What does that mean?
I'm pretty sure that means sexually abused.
Okay.
So he had sex with the corpse. The baby, David Fieri, whom Everly had been babysitting, was missing from the scene of the crime. Like that's what's so terrible too. Could you imagine you're letting her nephew, so that would have been like the parent of that baby's like sister.
Yeah.
You're letting your sister watch your baby maybe while you're working or going out on a date or something, and this happens. That's crazy.
Not only do you lose your nephew and your sister, you lost your baby in the process.
Yeah, that's crazy. So the child's decomposed corpse was found 4 months later behind a church.
I'm glad they didn't describe what happened to the baby.
Yeah, they didn't say how the baby died. They didn't say if he drunk the baby's blood or anything like that, but we do know that the baby was found behind a church.
I don't know if I could like mentally hear what he did to the
A lot of theories were, a lot of people were kind of like, whenever the baby went missing, they were hoping, like if you don't deeply read this more, you're kind of like, okay, the baby went missing. Maybe he kind of felt bad and couldn't go through with this murder.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's not what happened at all. So the story of what happened that night emerged during Chase's trial. The knock of a visitor who startled Sacramento's vampire killer, who took Fieri's body and fled via Meredith's stolen car. The visitors alerted the neighbors and then called the cops. So the way this kind of plays out is that a visitor went to the house and seen what happened.
Probably a friend came over.
Or it might have been the parents of the baby.
Yeah.
Went over there, knocked on the door, no one answered. They went in there, they seen what the hell happened. They got the neighbors to call the cops because at this point in time, there's no cell phones.
Yeah.
So, if something's going on, you either got to use a home phone or you got to go to a neighbor's to use their home phone. So that's kind of what happened. So the authorities were able to identify Chase's prints in Monarch's blood. So in the mother and son's blood, he was in the mother's blood that he just cannibalized. They found his fingerprints. So when the police searches Chase's apartment, they find that all of his utensils were stained with blood, and his fridge contained human brains.
Oh my God! So it can't just been those people.
So so there's got to probably be more. There's probably more people.
Yeah.
At this point, but something that's crazy is that this guy had mental illness. I heard like if you eat a human's brain, it like messes up your brain. Like it makes you go crazy.
Oh my God.
I hear that. I mean, I don't know if it's true or not, but I've heard.
So if he was eating brains,
it could have possibly made him more crazy, and gave him more mental illness stuff. The trial of the Vampire of Sacramento began on January 2nd, 1979.
So a year later.
Yeah, that's normally how it goes. These court cases normally take a long time.
Yeah.
And it lasted 5 months. The defense attorney rejected the suggested death penalty on the grounds that Chase was not guilty by reasons of insanity.
Yeah, I don't care.
No, I don't care. I don't care how crazy you are, dude. If you do something this grueling, I don't care if you're the craziest person known to man. You still deserve the death penalty. I do not care. In the end, after 5 hours of
deliberation,
the jury took the side of the prosecution.
I would too.
Richard Chase.
Why did that take 5 hours, bro? On the spot, man deserves.
They were trying to get him for insanity so he wouldn't get killed. They'd put him in a mental institution for the rest of his life.
Nah, man, not even mental jail. Freaking
Richard
solitary.
Chase, the vampire killer, was found guilty of 6 counts of murder and sentenced to death by the gas chamber. Ooh, that's a rough one too. That's a rough one.
Really?
Yeah.
Weren't the Jews killed in gas chambers?
Yeah, it's pretty much the same thing as during the Holocaust period. He's put into a chamber, gas is turned on, that kills him.
Yeah, he probably needed the most gruesome fucking
So
die.
whenever he was being held, waiting for the death penalty, because normally whenever you do get arrested and you get death penalty, sometimes people are waiting for years in prison, waiting 5-10 years before they're actually executed. His fellow inmates became aware of his crimes and were frightened by him.
I would be too, the fuck?
And they would often encourage him to kill himself. And guess what? That is exactly what Richard Chase would proceed to do. Chase Richard did just that, stockpiling the anxiety medication that the jail gave him, to help with his mental illness and all that sort of stuff. He stockpiled so much of it that he was able to do a fatal overdose to himself, and he was found dead in his jail cell the day after Christmas in 1980. So he was only in jail for
2 years.
a year.
Yeah, a year.
No, about almost 2 years, because he got arrested on January 2nd, 1979.
No, that's when the trial began.
Yeah, it was only 5 months. Okay, so it's 5 months. Yeah, it lasted 5 months. So January, February, March, April, May, June. In June. So it was about a year and 4 months. About a year and 4 months. He was in jail and kills himself. Takes the easy way out. Well, I mean, honestly, he was going to die anyway, so I guess it didn't really matter. As long as he was dead, they didn't care.
You gotta think what this family feels. It's so, like, to find out how your family member died. God,
I guess the only good thing about this murder is that he was caught fairly quickly.
Which is good.
Whenever he actually started getting into murdering people.
Fairly quickly because he had brains in his freezer or fridge.
Yeah.
So.
But I mean, that could have been from the original murders that he committed.
If they were on hand already, kept him in the asylum, or freaking made him stay with his mother, I don't know.
But
someone to watch him, I don't think this would have happened.
What we read here, that with the murders being back to back to back to back, he was caught fairly quickly compared to some killers that
he was crazy.
He didn't care. He didn't try to hide. That's the thing about this guy. He did not try to hide these murders. Like, he didn't think them out. Like, a lot of
because he was crazy.
Yeah, a lot of super crazy killers. They plan it. They know what they're doing. They know how to hide these bodies.
Some of these killers that we've read.
I feel like he was just so crazy. He just didn't even comprehend having to hide these bodies.
I don't think he understood any of what.
Yeah, because he was so out there.
Yeah.
So out there.
I mean, some of the killers we go over, like, some of them didn't do a really good job on hiding bodies.
No, but at least a lot of them tried.
Yeah, like, Dr. Death, he falsely did the
he did his good. But you had, like, the Bayou Strangler that we went over that just tossed these bodies willy-nilly.
Right.
But he still went on for 9 years to commit murders. This guy, he got caught within a year.
Yeah.
Within a year of killing people, he was caught and found guilty of 6 murders and sentenced to death. So, I mean, his was a fairly quick story compared to some of these people that go on for 10, 20, 5 to 20 years. Like the one killing people.
The story we still need to finish.
Yeah, like the story we're getting ready to finish.
Yeah, about the couple killer.
But guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast and this murderer, the vampire killer. Okay. So guys, stay tuned for tomorrow's podcast when we are finishing up. Who is it? Fred, then
Rose West.
Rose West, yeah. Fred and Rose West part 2 is coming out tomorrow, which will also be the final part.
The House of Horrors.
Yeah, so stay tuned for that. It is a long one because shoot, we worked on that one. Was an hour and a half for part 1. Part 2 is going to be
2 days we've been working on it.
Part 2 is going to be at least an hour to 2 hours long.
Yeah, so we were just getting into their murders.
Yep, it's a long one. It's a long one.
Yeah, it's really in depth. Really tells more story, like more in depth on what happened. It's probably because Fred, as soon as he found out Rose, like, betrayed him and wasn't on his side anymore, he let everything out. Yep. Told every single detail he could on what happened. And that's where you think, why he took the easy way out.
It seems like most of these killers that we're actually revealing, they all took the easy way out. Most of them have committed suicide after they've been convicted.
I think most of everyone committed suicide so far.
I think all 3 of them have. The 3 people we reviewed, they've killed themselves.
The Strangler, I think the Strangler killed himself, didn't he?
I think.
And then Wes does kill himself, and did we swallow that?
I don't know. Rose is still alive though. So, but most of ours, yeah, they've killed themselves in jail.
Because
All right.
they can't handle being in jail.
Yeah, they're big old pussies.
If they were so afraid of being in jail, maybe they shouldn't start murdering.
You would think. But guys, thank you so much for listening. We appreciate all the love and support. And make sure to head over to our YouTube channel where we post the exact same thing that you just listened to over there. But why not show us some love on that too? All right, we will see you guys tomorrow in the next podcast.
Thank you.
Goodbye, everybody.